of my position. Cam is my partner. I'm not his artist. I was the CEO of Diplomats. I made Diplomats with him. I was with him for every bit of his journey. My credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. What say Love Hop? They supposed to say? Man, the creator and founder Jim Jones. I made that name Love Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name. I didn't know that. You heard Jim Jones myself. Gold records, platinum records. Gold albums, platinum albums. You know me, Jim Jones. No Diplomats. No nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So, let's not get into that where we get into the numbers and I got to show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard. And if you want to go to the Billboard entries, pull up NS Billboard entries and pull up my Billboard entries. This is Jim Jones. And depending on which interview you catch, he paints himself as a man with endless accomplishments. He's claimed he was the mastermind behind love and hip-hop, bragged that his catalog runs circles around his peers and that he's either the muscle, the brain, or the one who taught everybody else how to move. What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. I got 100 on me now. I got like 40-50 on me right now. Get this right now. Right now. And it ain't a money thing. But this is, hey, you heard. If you want to get busy, it's a money on the line. Any one of y'all from my era. But people who actually came up with him say that image doesn't line up with reality. Industry insiders and even folks from his own circle have been calling out the stories he's been selling, saying he's been running with those caps for almost 20 years straight. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin been pushing the same story for years. That love and hip-hop was Jim's idea, his vision, his baby. They've said the whole show was built around their relationship. And Jim even claimed he came up with the entire concept himself. But when you dig past his version and look at what's actually on record, the truth hits different. I never give my credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. What say Love Hop? They supposed to say, man, the creator and founder Jim Jones. I made that name Love Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name. I didn't know that. Who? Mona Scott Young is the one officially credited as the creator and executive producer, not Jim. Her name's the one on the paperwork in the trade reports and listed on every official credit out there. Jim and Chrissy were never the masterminds. They were just cast members on Love and Hip Hop. Maybe Jim tossed out an idea or two. But let's be real. There's a big difference between casually pitching something and actually building one of the most successful reality TV franchises of the 2010s. Claiming you created Love and Hip Hop when your name ain't even on the credits isn't confidence. That's straight-up delusion. And it doesn't stop there. Jim's been selling this image of being Harlem's own, born and bred. But that whole story starts crumbling the second Camron opens his mouth. Their relationship's been rocky for years. Makeups, fallouts, quick reunions, then more drama again. One major reason for their beef, Jim once claimed he made Dipset. Cam wasn't going for that. And that's when he started pulling the curtain back on Jim's past, and it exposed a lot. Camron straight up said Jim wasn't really from Harlem like that. He was from the Bronx. His only Harlem tie came from his grandma who lived there, meaning Jim would just come around sometimes. Cam made it clear they didn't grow up together. So all those stories Jim tells about being raised in Harlem alongside Cam. According to Cam, none of that ever happened. You are a guardian, angel, and designer. Did you get what the is you talking about? Man, you are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you. I did not grow out you. Cam also broke down how Jim even got close to the crew in the first place back then. Cam, Mace, Big L, Bloodshed, and Herb McGruff were already buzzing heavy in the streets. Everybody knew they were about to land a record deal. Their freestyles had the city going crazy. Jim heard those tapes and wanted him bad. After his grandmother passed, Jim started opening up his house to them, offering his spot as a chill zone. For Cam and the crew, it felt random. They didn't really need a place to crash, but Jim kept inviting them, showing love, trying to fit in. Eventually, they started pulling up from time to time. You heard our freestyles, and you came up to me one day when I was chilling in front of the house. You said, And this word to my dead mother, yo, man, I heard the freestyles. You're killing. Yo, you know my grandmother died. If you'll want to come by and just hang out, you're all right. Joe, thanks. It didn't really make sense at the time cause we like. Yo, what is Joe inviting us to his house for? Even though he cool. But it didn't make sense to be going to Joe's house. Cam said sometimes they'd use Jim's crib, just to relax, bring some girls through or kick it since it was a free spot. But he made one thing crystal clear. He never needed Jim's place like that. To Cam, Jim was never part of their tight circle. When you act like on your couch, you was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan. A fan. We didn't grow up with you. I don't see you around none of this. You not from none of that. You ever see somebody from Harlem try to act like they from Harlem so bad that you got to? Keep saying I'm from Harlem. From Harlem know who's from Harlem. You don't have to keep saying you from Harlem. He was more like a fan hovering around the edges, desperate to be included. And if that wasn't enough, Kim also reminded people that it was actually Mace who taught Jim how to rap. Jim didn't come up spitting with him. He jumped in later once things were already moving and hot. He wasn't part of Harlem's rap core from the start. He just slid in when the opportunity opened up. And to top it off, Jim even tried flexing money on Cam once, but it backfired and left him looking embarrassed all over again. Now, Jim Jones' latest wild claim had everyone talking. He actually said he's a better rapper than Nas. What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. I got 100 on me now. I got like 40-50 on me. Get this right now. Right now. It ain't a money thing. But this is, hey, you heard. If you want to get busy, it's a money on the line. Any one of y'all from my era. He really went on record saying he could wrap circles around anybody from his era, even challenging hip-hop legends to meet him in the booth. Now, competition has always been part of hip-hop. So, calling people out ain't new. But this time it's about respect and reality. We're not talking about just any rapper here. This is Nas. The same Nas who won a Grammy in 2021 got honored at the 2024 Grandmaster Awards and is praised as one of the greatest lyricists to ever touch a MIC. The backlash came fast. Jim tried to clean it up later, saying he wasn't only talking about bars. He meant as a marketing genius, too. So now he's switching lanes. Is he really calling out legends to battle in the booth or just saying wild stuff for clout to keep his name hot? Me, Jim Jones, myself. Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum out. No me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So, let's not get into that. Where we get the numbers and I got to show you the statistics of what I've done, you heard, to what other people was done. You heard, and you want to go to the Billboard entries. Pull up Nas' Billboard entries and pull up my Billboard. That Jim didn't stop there, though. He went on to claim he's got more Billboard entries than Nas. But once people pulled the receipts, that statement fell apart quick. Jim's got a total of 9 entries on the Billboard 200 with just 3 cracking the top 10 and not one hitting number 1. Meanwhile, Nas sits with 27. Billboard 200 entries, 16 top 10 albums, and 6 number 1s. Those numbers don't lie. The gap is huge. And just when you thought it couldn't get wise, folks in Harlem started testing his talk. Nas or Jim Jones? Nas or Jim Jones? Nas or Jim Jones? Is that a serious question? Nas, bro Jim Jones the clown. People were asked a simple question. Who's the better rapper, Nas or Jim Jones? And the streets didn't hesitate to answer. The results were flat out embarrassing. Every single person picked Nas. Some didn't just choose him. They laughed at the idea that Jim could even be mentioned in the same sentence. Or Jim Jones. Nas. Yeah, I don't know what kind of Nas. I don't know what kind of question that is. Yeah, Nas. Okay, alright. Hey, you got to switch something up, big dog. I ain't going to lie to you. No, come on. This is Nas. My Nas. What? Is that even a question? Math Hoffer even ran the same question on his show. And the outcome was just as brutal. Once again, Nas took every vote without hesitation. Then came the whole Jay-Z situation. For years, Jim tried to play it cool, acting like there was no bad blood with Hovive. Around 2016, he was out here publicly saying everything was smooth between him and Roc Nation. No issues, no beef. But later on in different interviews, the truth started slipping out. Certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones. Who is Jim Jones? Like is not on anyone's top 10 list. Is not his no one's top 10 list. Maybe not even his family. He has no hardware on his wall. Not no classic album. So from a creative standpoint and an economic standpoint, he doesn't even register. So why do I have to answer that question? You know, Jim admitted he actually felt hurt, like he'd been left out of Roc Nation's big opportunities and major business plays. He basically went from pretending Jay was his brother to admitting he felt snubbed and pushed aside. Even Jay himself threw shade his way and fans caught on fast. The switch-up was so wild that hip-hop blogs and fans started calling him out for flip-flopping. And the more Jim told the story, the more it kept changing. Like his memory couldn't keep up with the narrative he built. And then there's the whole Bloods image. Jim's been pushing for years. He's always portrayed himself as some top-ranking general, claiming he gave orders and ran things like a boss. But when the 6ix9ine federal case exploded and those 9 Trey wiretaps hit the public, everything got real messy. Jim's name popped up right there on those wiretaps. You can literally hear him on tape talking gang business. Yet, when the indictments started dropping on everyone else, Jim's name was nowhere to be found. No charges, no arrest, nothing. That didn't go unnoticed. Legal experts, hip-hop commentators, and even defense lawyers all started asking the same question. If Jim was really the general giving orders like he claimed, how come he's the only one who walked away clean? If the feds had enough evidence to bury the 9 trade leaders for decades, how did Jim slip through untouched? A lot of people started saying there had to be a reason he wasn't sitting behind bars. And whatever that reason was, it didn't match the image he'd been selling for years. And it wasn't just New York where Jim tried to flex that gang credibility. He used to claim he was fully accepted out in LA, too. Like he had the green light to move in any hood. But Whack 100, who's never scared to expose someone, came out and said the truth was way different. According to Whack, Jim didn't earn that respect. He paid for it. I don't know why people think they make them. Like you don't know how much of a clown you look like in 2025 running back for a cop stamp. He said, "I'm a go over here. Pay these to go to the I'm not from comp." I'm like, bro, I'm not from Compton. I don't give a what park you go to in Compton. He allegedly offered Whack money just to get a pass in Compton so he could move around safely. Right after that, Jim hit Instagram posting clips of himself hanging out in Compton parks, acting like he was good everywhere. But to people who knew the real story, those clips looked staged, more like a performance than a real street respect. Even Faison Love jumped in clowning Jim and saying the closest he's ever been to a real blood set was watching the movie Colors. He ain't never been on no blood set. Closest thing he been to a blood set is Colors. He ain't been on Pyro Streetcars. He ain't been to Emerald Hills, Bunny Boys. He ain't been to Lincoln Park. He ain't been to none of them places and put in some work. And then there's Jim's so-called athlete era, which might honestly be just as wild as his other claims. He loves posting gym clips, especially those shadow boxing videos where he's trying to look like a real fighter. But the internet had zero mercy. Instead of hyping him up, Twitter tore him apart, clowning his form, his footwork, and those soft-looking punches. It turned into a full-blown meme fest. Reaction videos started flooding timelines. People zooming in on his stance, joking about his noodle arms and chicken legs. Even other rappers started joining in, roasting his boxing skills like it was open season. What Jim meant as a flex ended up being another running joke attached to his name. But the fake flexes aren't the only thing haunting his career. His beefs have been just as messy. These aren't iconic rap battles. They're embarrassing moments he probably wishes would disappear. Take his situation with Raw Diggs, for example. Raw Diggs wasn't some internet gangster pretending for clicks. He was really about that life. His record read like a crime doc. We're talking drugs, armed robberies, and multiple bodies tied to his name. Diggs got 3 life sentences. You heard about this. I see, I actually seen it on, I think it was on your website yesterday. And I was like, and I feel bad. His reputation was so serious that when the feds finally caught him, they didn't take any risk. They hit him with 3 life sentences plus 105 extra years just to make sure he'd never breathe free air again. So when Jim Jones crossed paths with someone like Raw Diggs, it was not a smart move. At the time, Raw was trying to switch lanes into music. He was recording tracks, linking with artists like Shooter 93, and slowly building a buzz in the hip-hop scene. One day, he ended up in the same studio where Jim was recording. And that's where things went left fast. Jim's always had one rule in his studio. No street talk, no gang politics. He keeps his music life and street life separate. But that day, Raw came in talking heavy, dropping blood politics, old gang stories, and street talk all through the session. Most people in the room thought it was just regular tough talk. But Jim wasn't having it. Witnesses say Jim suddenly snapped, telling Raw, "Man, get the out of here with that blood talk." At first, Raw was stunned. This was Raw Diggs, a dude people feared, a real street name with a reputation that carried weight. He couldn't believe Jim had just talked to him like that. So he checked him right back, asking if Jim really meant what he said. And Jim doubled down. He repeated himself, dismissing Raw right there in front of everybody. That's when the room shifted. The energy went from tense to explosive in seconds. Words started flying. Voices got louder. And everyone there said it. Felt like the air got sucked out of the place. You could feel how close it was to turning deadly. Luckily, cooler heads stepped in before things got completely out of control. Some of the dudes in the studio jumped in fast. They got between Jim and Raw before it turned physical. But Raw wasn't about to swallow his pride and walk away quiet. On his way out, he let that anger speak loud, smashed one of the studio's glass doors, and stormed off without looking back. You'd think that was the end of it. But later that same night, Jim had a show booked at SO's Rendezvous, a known hotspot. Everything started off smooth. The crowd was hype, music banging, Jim doing his thing on stage. Then suddenly, Raw Diggs walked in. And he didn't come alone. He rolled in deep with a couple of his guys, making sure everyone felt his presence the moment he stepped through the door. The DJ spotted him and grabbed the mic, shouting, "Raw Diggs in the building." Like a king just walked in. That's when the whole vibe flipped. Witnesses said Jim's face said it all. One minute he was cool and confident. The next he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Whatever energy he had vanished instantly. He didn't wait to see what Raw was plotting. He dipped out of there fast, leaving the club before anything could happen. Lucky for Jim, nothing popped off that night, at least not in public. But behind the scenes, it was way more serious than people realized. Word is, one of Raw's guys was literally waiting for the signal to take things to the next level. If Raw had given that green light, that night could have ended very differently for Jim Jones. But Raw held back. No order was given, and that's the only reason Jim made it out. Untouched, Raw let Jim walk away. And for someone like him, that was shocking. This was a man known for never letting disrespect slide. A dude feared because he always handled situations with violence. So why did Jim get a pass? People close to the story got their theories. Some say after that studio incident, Jim finally learned who he was really dealing with. Maybe someone pulled him aside and explained Raw's real background, his charges, his reputation, his whole street resume. If Jim didn't know before, he definitely knew after that day. And then we get to Max B. Out of every beef Jim Jones has ever had, this one might be the most personal and the most bitter. What makes it sting is they used to be tight. So, Max B, now you're my friend. You had a falling out with Jim Jones, right? Yeah, we had our mutual difficulties. As far as that paperwork go, we don't do paperwork no more. There's no such thing as paperwork. Max never have another project. There's no negotiation. I don't want to be friends. I don't care about no negotiation cause I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Max wasn't just another rapper in Jim's crew. He was his ghost writer, his right hand in the studio, and a key member of Jim's Bird Gang movement. For a while, they moved like brothers. But when things fell apart, they fell all the way apart. The real fallout started when Max caught that heavy case, a murder charge that would eventually have him serving serious time. From Max's point of view, Jim abandoned him when he needed him most. He felt betrayed, like Jim turned his back when the loyalty was supposed to mean something. That's when everything snapped. The friendship, the music, the respect, all gone. What followed turned into one of New York's nastiest rap feuds. Max didn't hold back. He dropped a mixtape with a cover showing tombstones, and one of them read, "Here lies Millie Jim Jones." Then came the infamous diss track, "She Touched It in Miami," where he claimed he slept with Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin. That song lit the streets on fire because taking shots at Jim was one thing, but dragging Chrissy into it made it personal, and that changed everything. From there, things turned physical. According to Max, one night he spotted Jim out in the streets, and that's when things got wild. He said Jim tried to box his car and like he was setting him up for a confrontation. But Max wasn't about to get cornered. He claimed he ran straight into Jim's Bentley just to break free. And in the middle of it all, he socked Jim right in the face. Even while locked up serving a long stretch, Max never let the beef fully consume him. Over time, he hinted that he was ready to move past it, saying he'd be down to squash things if the chance came up. But Jim has always played it off like it was nothing, acting like the whole situation didn't even matter. In interviews, he'll brush off Max's name like it's a blur, pretending not to remember him. Jimmy was not a rapper then, right? He was your man like on the side like in the side, just he was not a rapper at all. So when bowling took place and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. And I just looked and I knew I just took the shot murder to see cause I was sure he was going to go for it. But I was like, we're like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. You got to watch. See how you see like, oh, you really like that. Give me this. Get treating it like a minor footnote in his career. Still, the truth did eventually surface. Both of them paused though. Get off my space on there for baby girl. In a recent interview, Jim finally admitted that he did Max dirty. That little confession flipped the narrative because for years fans suspected it anyway. And then there's 50 Cent. Now 50's name pops up in almost every major rap feud out there. But when it comes to Jim Jones, their tension goes way back to 2007. At that time, Dipset was already shaky. Camron and Jim were clashing and the crew wasn't as tight as before. And 50 being the ultimate instigator saw his shot. This in the Breakfast Club. Jimmy popping all that I be seeing you. Jimmy talking about we Gucci boo. He in the Gucci store. Gucci boo like King was going to you up Jimmy like Marita Mona go the money in case they wanted to know tell them we Gucci. We Gucci boo boo. He invited Jim to perform at one of his shows right in the middle of that Dipset chaos, and it wasn't a friendly invite either. Years later actually admitted it was all a strategic move. He wanted to stir the pot, expose Dipset's cracks, and laugh at how Jim had just caught his first big hit. It wasn't about unity, it was chess. Jim eventually fired back during an interview with Justin LeBoy, trying to flip the script by calling out both 50 and Cam at once. He said, both of them paused, though. Get off my yeah. There's only space on there for baby girl. Man. But of course, 50 wasn't letting that slide. Not in his world. He took it further like only 50 can, turning it from music into full-blown street gossip. When 6ix9ine's federal trial was going down, 50 pulled up actual court transcripts where Jim's name popped up under individual one. He didn't say it outright, but he didn't have to. Heavily implied Jim might have been playing both sides, maybe even cooperating. That move planted serious doubt in people's minds about Jim's street credibility. And once 50 lit that flame, the internet ran with it like wildfire. Jimmy Neutron, you tried to say this piece. Don't exist. There's only one who do this. Step the diamond game up. Mine not balling. It look better on camera cause I'm seeing it right there. Look, put the it look better on camera. Gage. That move had people looking at Jim sideways because in this culture, the last thing you ever want tied to your name is being labeled an informant. And 50 didn't stop there. He kept clowning Jim every chance he got. So when the idea of a potential versus battle between them came up, Jim shut that down. Immediately, his response was cold and straight to the point. I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. But then came true life. And this beef wasn't rap talk or internet trolling. It was real with street-level consequences. This was one of the darkest chapters in Jim's whole career. At first, Jim and True Life weren't even enemies. They were cool. True Life, along with Jojo Capone, was actually providing protection for Jim and Dipset. Whenever things got heated in New York, they were out there risking it all, holding things down in moments that could have easily turned violent. But over time, True Life and Jojo started feeling like they weren't being shown the proper respect or getting compensated for putting their necks on the line. From their side, they were risking everything and Jim wasn't showing enough love back. That's when things blew up. True Life snatched Jim's Bird Gang chain, and instead of keeping it quiet, he turned it into a public humiliation. He flaunted that chain in interviews, showing it off like a trophy, laughing like it was proof Jim wasn't who he claimed to be. In the street world, that kind of disrespect hits deep. It's not about jewelry. It's about pride, power, and credibility. Watching True Life parade around with that chain crushed Jim's image, especially when people were already questioning his authenticity. Jim tried to flip the story by going on Hot 97 to tell his side, but that only made it worse. True Life felt even more disrespected by how Jim was talking. And from that point on, the beef only got darker and deeper. That bad blood between Jim and True Life could have easily turned into something catastrophic. The only reason it ever cooled down was because True Life got locked up on an unrelated case. Prison hit pause on the situation, but the memory of it never really faded. To this day, Jim barely speaks on it, probably because it's one of those LS that just doesn't wash off no matter how much time passes. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's wild how many hits Jim's taken over the years. From public fallouts and messy feuds to the lies people keep catching him in, the drama never stops. Everywhere he goes, chaos seems to follow right behind. The truth is, the industry doesn't look at Jim like a legend anymore. They see him as a walking headline, a man who built his own image just for it to flip on him. Instead of getting respect, more and more people just clown him for the madness that always surrounds his name. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to Dipset, hit that like, comment, and share this video. There's plenty more truth coming, y'all.